Out front now, former Republican Congressman Will Hurd, who represented the Uvalde community for 6 years in Congress, and Paul Begala, former White House counselor to President Clinton and our political commentator. Congressman Hurd, just to state the obvious, Marco Rubio often has very thoughtful things to say, but to say that someone with a knife instead of a gun could go in and murder and slaughter 21 people, it's not right. So when you hear Trump, other Republicans heading to Texas for the NRA meeting, Trump confirming today, senators on Capitol Hill, many of them finding ways to dismiss ideas for gun control, what do you say to them?
Well, anybody that says there's nothing that can be done is just absolutely wrong. There's a lot of different things that can be done. There's not just one magic fix that's going to solve all of this problem. In Texas, why do you have to be 21 to have a handgun, but you can be 18 to have a semi-automatic rifle? That doesn't make sense. If you're going to purchase a weapon, everybody should have a background check. I was one of the few Republicans that voted in support of H.R. 8. That's the piece of legislation that is often brought up, and when these debates happen. This is the one that Coach Kerr from the Golden State Warriors were talking about the other night. We could be talking about issues of mental health. Yes, the people that conduct this, the kid that did this slaughter in Uvalde is a monster. The kid that killed people in Buffalo is a monster. When I was in Congress, the kid that killed people in El Paso were monsters, but they didn't start off that way. So how do we get to them before they make that decision to do these things? Let's study this. Let's understand what is going on. I only know of 2 researchers that have reviewed all of the mass shooting since 1966. They call it the Violence Project. We need, and so that we understand all the things that we can be doing. It's not just one, it's multiple things that need to be happening at the same time. And anybody, Republican or Democrat, that says there's nothing that can be done for this, then shame on them.
So, Paul, you hear Will willing to call out, his own party here. Well, Beto O'Rourke, the Democratic nominee for governor in your home state of Texas, confronted Governor Greg Abbott and other officials during a press conference today on the shooting. Take a listen to what happened.
Shooting is right now, and you are doing nothing. You're offering us nothing. You said this was not predictable. This is totally predictable when you choose not to do anything.
Sir, you are out.
I'm sorry for the kids of this state to stop this from happening again.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Please. I can't believe you exit.
I'm trying to happen here. This is not the place to do that.
That was the Uvalde mayor. And just before that happened, Paul, O'Rourke sent out a campaign email about the shooting. There wasn't a donation link included, but the email does say, grassroots supporters like you keep us going, and directing them to a mailing address to send checks to the campaign. Was his behavior today a mistake?
I think no. I think confronting the governor in public, and he didn't go to his home, he didn't bother his family. I think more of us should be a Beto. More of us should be Beto. We should confront these politicians work for us. And in public, when they're at their town hall meetings or trying to get press, I think it's wonderful, frankly, to express that righteous indignation. Will is friends with Beto. I know Beto. He's a dad. That wasn't a politician there. That was a dad, and it was an El Pasoan whose heart was broken.
So you don't have a problem with the fact that it was performance theater. I mean, the mayor of Uvalde is saying, "I can't believe you're a sick son of a bitch that would come to a deal like this and do that." You just don't agree.
No, I think the sick people are the ones who say, in the wake of a mass shooting, let's make it easier to carry weapons. Governor Abbott, get this, he signed a law in Texas that says you can carry a gun with no training, no school, no certification, no licensing, no registration, nothing. I looked it up. To be a cosmetologist in Texas, Erin, you have to have 1,500 hours of training. Because, that curling iron, that could hurt somebody. That's a dangerous instrument. So, no, I think what's sick is the fetishization of these Republicans on this issue. Will is right. He was one of only 8 people to vote for that background check. Only 8.
Yeah.
Okay, when I worked for President Clinton, we passed a Brady bill. We had 54 in the House and 17 in the Senate. We had Ronald Reagan standing up for sensible gun safety. So something has happened to the Republican Party. It's not the party of Ronald Reagan or even Will Hurd anymore. It's a party of really sick politicians.
Well, it has become an absolutism on gun, as both of you have laid out, Texas being an example. And I want to ask you about that in a second, Congressman Hurd. But first, just to be clear, Paul, how many guns do you have? I just want everyone to be clear. You're a gun owner.
I have a lot. I'm a gun owner. I'm an avid hunter. I shoot targets, and I love to hunt. My rights have never been infringed. I support a ban on assault weapons and a ban on high-capacity magazines.
I mean, I'm trying to make the point that, to be clear, you're a hunter and you have a lot of guns, right? So you're
Yes,
not
I
sitting
do.
here as somebody who says, okay. And so I just
I'm
wanna
not anti-gun at all.
Right.
I'm anti felons and criminals and terrorists, and I'm anti-assault weapon. You know, we can do a lot of common sense things without infringing on anybody's rights.
And Will, the thing is that the American public agrees with both of you. They agree, right? So Monmouth University did a poll after the Parkland shooting in which 17 students and teachers were killed. And what I found fascinating about this, and I've remembered it ever since, because the NRA comes out and fights for this absolutism. But the people who are the members of the NRA do not actually support the NRA's public position. 69% in that poll of NRA members supported background checks for all gun purchases. That's 69% of NRA members, 83% of the general population. So how is it, Will, that Republican lawmakers, many of them, do not support expanding background checks? They're at odds with the members of the NRA.
Well, I think they're also at odds with a majority of the actual voters in primaries. Most of the voters, look, I'm born and raised in Texas. Responsible gun owners, you know, they take several days of training before you get licensed to go hunting. Responsible gun owners lock their guns and the ammunition up so nobody can get access to it. Responsible gun owners know that these things and teach, you know, their children how to properly use this. And so why we're not seeing more movement on these issues? Responsible gun owners do not think terrorists and people that have serious mental health issues should have access to firearms. And so the question is not about responsible gun owners, because responsible gun owners agree with all these things. And just today, I think that the study came out, about 90% of Americans think something needs to be done. But what we have to prevent is everybody going to their same tired corners and arguing for their same tired, case that happens every time one of these things happen. There is not one single solution to this problem. We have to do a lot of things. And at the end of the day, today, there are 19 moms that are not going to be able to tuck their children away. And when you got to understand about Uvalde, this is a small community. They know everybody. This is not just impacting the families. It's not just impacting the spouses of the teachers that were killed. This is impacting everybody. The police officers that went in and saw the carnage, where people had to be ID'd by DNA. This is going to impact people for a long time to come. The people in Sutherland Springs from a couple of years ago are still dealing with the trauma. The people in El Paso are still dealing with the trauma. This is happening all over. This is an area where we should be able to get together and say, hey, 50% of teenage kids in this country shouldn't be afraid of something, a major shooting event happening at their school. And if this continues, guess what's happened? It's going to be harder and harder to get teachers to teach, because they're going to be afraid to be in these schools. So there's a lot of things we can be doing, and it requires leadership from Democrats. It requires the GOP. GOP, if you are going to be the party of law enforcement and be the party of, that's tough on crime, then we got to be tough on mass shootings and have the best ideas on how to prevent this from happening.
All right. Thank you both very much.